Welcome to Top Shelf Board Games. This is how to play Above and Below. All right, let's get started. So Above and Below, you're going to be working to acquire different victory points over the course of the game. Victory points are acquired by purchasing different cards that have the victory point symbol, advancing on the reputation track to various levels. You get points for building buildings over the course of the game. And also by going and exploring the caves, you can gain reputation and points that way. Also by placing goods on your advancement track, the more goods you have will increase the amount of points that you get. For instance, having a token on this spot right here, I would get 2 victory points for every token in this location. Whereas down here, I get 1 point for each of these. So with that in mind, let's get going. On your turn, there's several actions that you can choose from. These actions are laid out at the top of your player board. You have your Explorer action, your Harvest action, your Build action, your Train action, and your Labor action. There's also 3 different free actions that you can do. So let's go over the Explorer action. When you decide to do an Explorer action, you'll draw the top card of the cave deck and place it on the left side of your player board. After you flip it over, you'll place 2 of your workers. You'll send at least 2 workers over to the cave to explore it. The more you send, the better. Each of your workers has a different dice and number on them, along with different lanterns. When you roll your dice, you're trying to get the number that's on your worker that you send over. If you get that number, you'll get the corresponding lanterns, and you need X amount of lanterns to complete each of your Explorer actions. So I might send these 2 over, place them on the card, then you take 1 dice and you'll roll it. And so I rolled a 4. This tells me what paragraph of the encounter book that I have to read. So I need to read paragraph 93 of the encounter book. Over here, the person to your left would open the encounter book. They would go to paragraph 93 and read the encounter. So let's go over reading an encounter and what goes into that. All right, so an encounter might look something like this. You descend a deep chasm until you reach a wide, dark chamber. Rancid, cloudy water covers the cave floor, and soon you see glowing red eyes in all directions. You raise your lantern and realize that you're surrounded by giant rats. Their brown, oily coats slick and wet. They close in, ready to make your party their next meal. Do you try to run and hide from the rats, or do you stand and fight? Then it's going to have different text down here. So it'll be run and hide is one of your options, or stand and fight. The way you'll read this is run and hide, explore 3, explore 4. Stand and fight, explore 7. You won't read what's in the parentheses. What's in the parentheses is the reward, and you don't want to tell them what the reward is. So for this one, they would choose either run and hide or stand and fight. Let's say I wanted, because I only have, my explorers are only, the most I'm going to be able to get is 3 lanterns, maybe a couple more if I exert. I'm going to do run and hide. Once you've chosen what you're going to do, you'll take 1 dice for each explorer, and you'll roll that dice for that explorer. So I'll take this dice, I'll roll it for this guy. You have to state out loud which dice is going to which person. So I rolled a 3. Unfortunately, that's not enough to reach his 4 that he needs. For her, I rolled a 6, so that completes the 3 there, so that gives me 2 lanterns. I needed at least 3 in order to complete it. So is what you can do, if you don't roll enough, you can exert your guys in order to gain 1 lantern for each person you exert. When you exert somebody, you'll take them, you'll place them in your injured pile. On your board, you have your injured area, your exhausted area, and your ready area. Only players in your ready area can be moved to explore and do other actions. Once you move them over to the injured area, you'll gain 1 additional lantern. So in this case, I will now have 3. The person to your left would then tell you the reward that you would meet. And in this case, it would be gain a coin. So I'd take 1 coin and place it in my supply. Once that's completed, I'd take all the other explorers that were on there and place them in the exhausted area. And I would then take the card and place it on the right side of my board, and now I can build an outpost there. If I didn't complete the amount of lanterns that I needed. Then I would move all of my guys over to the exhausted area and discard this card. All right, the next action you can do is the harvest action. When you harvest, you take any explorers that you have and you'll move one to the exhausted area. You can move as many as you want. For each person that you move to your exhausted area, you can harvest one good off of a card or outpost that you have created. So I have this good on this card that I could go ahead and harvest. When I harvest it, I can immediately go and sell it, or I can just keep it in my reserve down here, or I can place it on my advancement track. If I already have, when you place goods into your advancement track, you'll place it to the farthest left. If you already have a good of that type in play, you'll just place it on top of the corresponding good. If it was a different type of good, for instance this pot, then I would go ahead and place it right there, moving my advancement track up. And that would be your harvest action. The build action, in order to do the build action, you would have to have an available worker with the build icon. You would then move him over to the exhausted area, and you would be able to build either a house, an outpost, a key house, or a star house. And you just pay the indicated number in the top left. So this one would cost me 5 coins. This one would cost me 4 coins. So I go ahead and pay 4 coins and take this card. I would place it in next to my other houses. This icon means that I'd put 2 of those goods on this card that I can then harvest in the future. Once I got my 2 goods on there, that would be the end of my harvest action, or that would be the end of my build action. The train action is much like the build action, but I have to have a worker with the feather icon. I would take the person with the feather icon, move them to my exhausted area, then I could come up here and train a new worker, paying the indicated cost at the bottom to gain that worker. For instance, I could gain this one by paying 3. Once I pay my 3, I would then place my new acquired worker into my explore area, or my exhausted area, and that would be my train action. The last action you can do is the labor action. For the labor action, any people you have in your ready area, you can move them to your exhausted area. Each time you do, you gain 1 coin. If you're the first person to do the labor action, you'll gain the corresponding cider token up here, and that would be your labor action. There's free actions that you can do. You can buy a good from a player. So if my opponent here had his mushroom for sale up in the top left, I could go ahead and buy that. I have to pay at least 3 coins, but my opponent might want 7 for that mushroom. You can negotiate and barter, but in the end you have to pay with coins and only coins. You can put something for sale. So you can take an item that you have and you could put it for sale. When you put something for sale, if there's already a good there, you have to replace that good, taking this good back, and that would be your putting something for sale. You can also refresh a building row. You can take 1 row of buildings and refresh them. If you don't like what's out there, you can go ahead and pay 1 coin and discard the 4 cards in the row and put 4 new cards out. This can only be done for the regular houses and the outposts. You can't refresh the key houses or the star houses. This will continue, the actions will continue back and forth until everybody has chosen to pass. Once everybody has chosen to pass, the round will end, and we would move the round tracker down 1. We would replace the new cider token. We'll refill the villager board that have been purchased. We'll slide all these down to the left, making those cheaper, and add new ones on. We'll rest our villagers. When you rest your villagers, if you have any potions, you can use that to take somebody from your injured area and move it into your exhausted area, and paying a potion to do so. You can then take a cider token and move somebody from your exhausted area into your ready area. After you've spent your potions and ciders that you want to spend, you would then use your beds that you've acquired in order to continue to move people from one to another. So I have 3 beds, so I can move 3 workers from my exhausted area into my ready area. When using your beds, your workers can only sleep in one bed. So what that means is I could only move him from the injured area to the exhausted area. I couldn't use a second bed to then move him to my ready area. I'd have to use the cider or the potion to move him and then use a bed to move him again. The next thing you'll do once villagers have been rested, we would collect income. Income is collected by looking at your advancement track. The farther along you are, the more coins you get. You start out with collecting 4, but in this case, I would collect 6 coins. You also collect coins for any cards that would give you bonuses. For instance, if I had this card, I would collect an additional coin. Next, we would refresh goods and buildings. So buildings that had been purchased would get filled in. Goods would, for instance, goods that get refreshed are ones like this. If you have this card in front of you with the arrow next to it, you would take a good and refresh it on there. Cards with the 2 dots don't get refreshed. Once they're spent, they're gone. If there's already a good on this card, you can't add another one on there. This one has to be harvested before you can refresh it. Then we would pass the first player card to the next player, and we would start another round. Rounds would continue to go in this manner until 7 rounds have been completed. At the end of that, we would add up our points to see who has won. We would look at our advancement track. We'd collect our points for the tokens that we have in the location. So we get 2 coins for every mushroom in this location, 1 coin for every pear, 1 coin for every fish, and so on. Also, you get 1 coin for every building that you've purchased. If I had purchased an outpost, the outpost would go on to an empty cave. Only caves that have outposts in them will count as points at the end of the game. For instance, this empty cave here wouldn't count for any points. I would have to buy an outpost and place it into that cave in order to gain that additional point. Also, there's cards that will give you points. For instance, this card right here would give you 12 points, plus you get 2 points for every piece of paper you have, and 2 points for every amethyst that you have. So you'll add up all those points. You'll also gain points for the reputation track. As you explore, you'll gain reputation or lose reputation. Whoever is the farthest along will get 5 additional points. The next one will get 2 points. If you're playing a 2-player game, whoever has the most will get 3 points. The second one won't get any. You also will get extra points for however far you are along on your reputation track. You might also lose points if you've fallen behind on your reputation. You'll add up all your points, and whoever has the most wins the game.